In 1928, Paulo Prado opened his essay with a phrase that has resonated throughout the century. "In a radiant land lives a sad people." It was a bold thesis for the time, to explain the character of an entire nation through psychological traits inherited from colonization. Lust, greed, sadness, romanticism. 4 chapters, 1 diagnosis. Almost 100 years later, we know that part of this diagnosis carried the deterministic racial theories of his time, now outdated. But the questions Prado asked remain relevant. However, the right answer is not in the psychology of a people. It lies in the institutions that an exploitative colonization left as a legacy. In this video, we will understand precisely the process of creating Brazilian culture from its discovery to the empire and the republic, whose traces reverberate to this day. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and let's embark on this journey right after the intro. Portrait of Brazil, Essay on Brazilian Sadness, was a book written by Paulo Prado, a renowned Brazilian intellectual, patron of the arts, and descendant of a traditional and influential family from the state of São Paulo. He was one of the creators and organizers of the Modern Art Week of 1922. Portrait of Brazil, published in 1928, is a controversial and original vision of the Brazilian character and soul. It had enormous repercussions in the 1920s and 30s, revealing aspects of modernist thought. This book is divided into 6 parts: Preface, which we just heard a moment ago, Lust, Greed, Sadness, Romanticism, and Postscript, and we will briefly analyze each one. So let's go to the part on lust. In Lust, where Prado saw sexual debauchery and racial mixing as the origin of a moral imbalance, perhaps it is more accurate to speak of another lust, that of the metropolis itself. Portugal did not arrive in Brazil with a nation-building project. It arrived in a hurry for quick profit. First Brazilwood, then sugar, then gold. A lust for immediate wealth without any commitment to building institutions that would survive the extraction. This colonial lust has direct heirs: the large-scale monoculture estates for export, ranging from sugarcane to coffee and now extending to agribusiness. A model designed for quick returns, not for broad distribution. As Prado asserted, greed was an individual vice. Structural greed is something else entirely. It's the logic that Latin American economists have called dependency, a center that develops at the expense of a periphery that exports cheap raw materials and imports products with higher added value. A silent transfer of wealth repeated with each harvest, each shipment of ore, each crop. The unsettling detail is that this greed didn't disappear with the Portuguese crown in 1822. It migrated domestically. It came to be managed by coffee barons, then by sugar mill owners, and today by parts of agribusiness itself and the national financial system. The parasite, so to speak, became a partner. Hi, Heridan here. If you, like me, enjoy reading and learning as much as possible from each book, you'll love reading the books I've written. I'll leave the links to buy my books in the description of this video and in the first pinned comment. Henrik and Lights, Insights and Possible Elucidations on the Propensity for Self-Improvement. Books available at clubeditores.pt and on Amazon. Check them out. Let's get back to the video. If there is a general Brazilian sadness, it doesn't stem from mixed blood, as Prado thought. It stems from an inequality that has reproduced itself for 500 years through the same mechanisms. Land concentrated in few hands, cheap and disposable labor, mass education that was never a priority for those at the top, because it never needed to be. Brazil had the largest slave system in the Americas and was the last country on the continent to abolish it. This is not a historical footnote. It is the most solid structural explanation for an inequality that still organizes the country. More solid than any theory about national temperament. Prado's Romanticism was the myth of the country of the future, the promised land that never fulfills its promise. It's worth comparing it to a possible mirror. Australia, another colony born from a penal project and yet becoming a prosperous democracy. The difference wasn't luck or destiny, it was institutional design. A climate that allowed dense settlement, British institutions transplanted early, an economy that didn't depend on mass slavery to sustain its exports. Brazil followed a different path, colonization of exploitation, not settlement. A structural choice made in the early centuries that continues to determine results today. Not because Brazilians are like that, but because the rules of the game have never been completely rewritten. Perhaps the question Paulo Prado unknowingly left open isn't, why are Brazilians sad? But another, how much of the extractive structure of 1500 still organizes Brazil in 2026? The answer lies less in the soul of a people and more in the incentives of those who, with each generation, inherit control of the land, credit, and power, and find an advantage in maintaining the system as it is. Understanding this origin isn't about seeking a historical excuse. It's about pinpointing exactly where and by whom the rules can or cannot be rewritten. Thanks for watching.